substance. Sean is there. France Gallo have released a statement. Sean, can you tell us more, please?
Yeah, hi Enzo. France Gallo have now released a statement in French. They're working on an English translation. I, in the meantime, have spoken to officials here at France Gallo in Paris myself to just confirm some of the details. And we can put a bit more flesh on the bones for you, Enzo. The penalty for his positive sample is actually 5 months. It will be reported internationally as a 6-month ban because that will be the net effect, because that 5 months will run after the initial 1 month, which was the suspension that the medical commission are insisting on. Just to remind you, Frankie Dettori met with the medical commission on the 20th of November here in Paris, or rather he was on a conference call. His lawyer was here, I think, on the 20th of November. It was at that point that the medical committee suspended Frankie Dettori from riding in France. Crucially, at that point, at that same meeting, as I understand, his people also undertook that he wouldn't ride anywhere else, and that's why we're getting this kicking in from November the 20th. That they seem to have taken on board, the French authorities, the fact that he said, I'm not going to ride anymore. That's why we're able to start from the 20th of November and move on from there. There is a crucial hurdle for Frankie Dettori still to clear if he wants to return to riding, specifically if he wants to return to riding in France. The French authorities here, the medical committee here, consider this breach of the rules so grave or so serious that they would want to be satisfied that he was fit to ride again. So he would be free to return to France any time from the 20th of April onwards, but he would have to pass a medical here with the French authorities. He would have to meet that medical committee once again. Samples would be taken from Frankie Dettori before they would clear him to ride. And obviously that could have repercussions as to whether he would get his license back elsewhere as well, perhaps, or permission to ride elsewhere, depending on what the French authorities do. Not anticipating any problems, obviously, with that, Enzo, but they're very specific about that. Not at any point from the 20th of April onwards, Frankie Dettori can appear before that medical commission once again, but he'll need to if he wants to ride again in France.
OK, that's interesting, Sean, isn't it? Because obviously we thought it would be up to the May the 19th, but you're saying if he passes that medical in France, he would be able to ride before the 19th of May?
No, I don't think that's the case. I think they're just saying that that facility will be available to him from the 20th of April onwards, which would enable him to be passed clear, as it were, but the suspension is still what it is. But it's interesting that takes you up, as it were, to the end of 5 months, effectively. But the medical commission have a month of their own, by the sound of it. It's slightly complex, and I'll try and get a further confirmation of exactly how that breaks down. But what I'm told is the actual penalty itself is 5 months. The medical commission aspect of it is adding an extra month to it. But on top of that, there will be further tests Frankie Dettori will have to undergo just to make sure that all is well.
OK, we're expecting this is going to be reciprocated, Sean, by the racing jurisdictions worldwide, including the BHA, of course. So is that the feeling?
Absolutely. That's in the French statement here from France Gallo. It's the last paragraph. It's basically along the lines of, we expect this to be honoured by other racing jurisdictions around the world, as would be the case if it were the other way around. I mean, it's an interesting one because we have had 1 or 2 cases of various racing authorities, not always applying the same rules as each other, but on an issue like this, it seems to be the case that everyone plays ball. So that's certainly what we're all anticipating, I think, Tony. That's certainly what the French authority in their release are saying.
OK, so in terms of the ban, May the 19th, Sean, which means he will miss the 1,000 to 2,000 guineas, but he will be back in time to ride in the Epsom Classics.
Yes, it's a partial victory, I suppose, isn't it? We understood that his team might try to persuade the French Stewards that maybe it should be backdated when he last rode in public in Melbourne. They may or may not have attempted that, but certainly they made clear when they met the medical committee here on the 19th that he wasn't going to ride anywhere else, and that seems to have had the desired effect because obviously they're counting back from the 20th of November rather than taking it from today, for example.
Sean, many thanks for that. We'll let you go, but we'll speak to you later on. Many thanks to Sean Boyce. Sean Boyce reporting from the France Gallo offices there in France now. Jim McGrath, racing journalist, of course, commentator and at the races reporter, is going to join us now to give us his reaction. Jim, hello, are you there?
I am, Tony, yes.
Now, just picking up the statement as well, Jim, from Frankie's solicitor, Christopher Stewart Moore, he has said that Dettori fully accepts the decision to ban him for 6 months, but it sounds as if he's determined to come back fighting again in May.
Yes, it's a very significant statement, I think. Obviously, there's quite a few points to be taken out of it. First of all, that all the way through this whole inquiry, he has cooperated fully with the authorities, as you would expect. When the decision came through from the medical committee, he put his hands up and he said he accepted their decision without reservation. And it's a realization, I think, of that he knows what this whole business actually means, not only for his own reputation and his own career, but also what it means to racing. It has ramifications definitely outside our small world of racing. People outside our business and our sport, they know Frankie Dettori as a celebrity. They know him as the flamboyant Italian who jumps off horses, does flying dismounts, and owns restaurants, and and appears on chat shows. He's that sort of personality, and of course he represents racing in many, many ways. So this statement, I think, is the most important factor today. It's a realization that he recognizes the gravity of it, and also I think it has to also be said that most people were expecting this type of penalty. That's no surprise. They were expecting a 6-month ban, and that's exactly what he's got. I'm actually here in Hong Kong at the moment for tonight, the International Jockeys Championship here, and the reaction when it's come through is that as expected, and everybody hoping that he can rebuild his career.
Yes, reading bits of the statement, Jim, he said that Dettori accepts that he has let down the sport he loves and all those associated with it, as well as the wider public. But most of all, and this is his greatest regret, he has let down his wife and children. So, there's plenty of regret, plenty of remorse there in that statement from Dettori.
Yeah, and I think it's typical of the man himself. He's a great personality. He's done the wrong thing, and he's been caught out. And it's a humiliation to him, I'm sure, professionally and also personally. And so that apology is very welcome by not only the sport, but everybody who knows him and also loves him. So, it's a very, very big day for him. I know that most people are expecting this type of ban, but at the same time, his statements have been encouraging, and particularly the one about where he's going to try and rebuild his career and his reputation, and that he's determined to get back into the saddle. I think that's really what has to be done. What I do fear, Tony, is that the tabloids, the press in general, outside the sport, will certainly see Dettori as a fallen celebrity, and one that is worthy of attack, particularly because of being found guilty of being tested positive to a prohibited substance. I think that's the sort of publicity that he should be bracing himself for. I think that is almost inevitable.
Yeah, Jim, let's hope he gets his career back on track from May onwards next year. Many thanks for that, Jim, and we'll speak to you again soon, hopefully.